Welcome, friends, and thank you for tuning into the Optimal Health Program. Once again, happy to have you here. We're going to chat with you, talk about a variety of different things, some interesting studies, and certainly take your questions here. I think the purpose of the program, just as I had done for many, many years on the radio, is to talk to people and see what their interests are, give them help as to find the underlying causes for their medical problems, show them what testing they could do to determine what's really creating the problems that you're going through, and be as comprehensive, as thorough as humanly possible. That's critically important when you're trying to get a real understanding of your medical problems or your condition. I call it a comprehensive medical nutritional approach. We're looking at the nutritional realm, what you're eating, vitamins, minerals, hormones, testing your levels, all of that, so we can put together the biggest and best picture. If you'd like to call in and ask a question, you could do so. 888-420-9272, 888-420-9272. And of course, if you'd like to send us a note, text, email, whichever you like, Frankie is here controlling the realm of this very big computer setup. And we'll take your calls. We love to hear from our friends at Rumble, at Reddit, TikTok, Instagram, Spotify, everywhere. We had a great response from Saturday's program. We ended up having over 10,000 people that watched the show.
11,000.
11,000. Awesome.
New record. Always hitting on this show.
Yep, got to hit new records every week, I think. Unfortunately, traditional medicine is not, I think, teaching people as much as they should or enough, and they're not doing all the tests I think need to be done. They never test for vitamins. I think this is one of the most important blood tests you could do. Test, make recommendation, and then retest to make sure you're in the perfect range for your vitamins and your hormones. So people come in all the time, and as many years I've been doing this, I'm a physician for 39 years, people come in saying, my doctor didn't explain this to me. My doctor didn't say this or that or give me other options, and kind of is the way it is. To be a good doctor, you have to wear many hats. You have to be an investigator, a researcher, a coach. You have to be many things, all at once to be able to get results and to effectively help a patient become healthy. That's the job. It's not about giving you one drug after another and multiple drugs, and the patient's confused and, unhappy. It's not the way it should be. So that's why I've always done this mechanism, this approach. Okay, so let's talk about some interesting articles here. First one, we'll chat about butter versus plant oils and other oils that are out there, seed oils. We've heard a lot about seed oils and how they may be bad and negatively affect your health. But here is a great study talking about the benefits of butter compared to other oils. And in a large study, they looked at swapping butter for those other oils may reduce the risk of premature death. Very interesting. 10 grams of butter a day compared to the other oils was an estimated 17% reduction in overall mortality and a 17% reduction in cancer mortality. Now, of course, butter should be very plain and simple and comes from nature, not manipulated, not chemically created, or has a variety of bad things in it. This is from the American Journal of Medicine. And internal medicine, subset. They examined data for more than 200,000 people in 3 different populations. The Nurses' Health Study, 1990 to 2023, very, very, very big study. And a great deal of information has come out of that study on many things, because they took all of these nurses, men and women, over a very long period of time, and were looking to see what was occurring, not trying to fit some sort of research into a narrative. They're looking to see what was occurring in the populations. And this is just one of many studies that was taken from there. They also looked at the Nurses' Health Study number 2, 1991 to 2023, and the Health Professions Follow-Up Study from 1990 to 2023. Included in each study were participants who were free of cancer, cardiovascular disease, diabetes, or neurologic disease. So very interesting. People like the fact that when studies are done, they're not pointed towards showing that a drug is going to be the thing to use, unless, of course, there's absolute reason. I also think people, as I do, like to see a lot of people in a study, 200,000, is a great population in the study. And looking at how to understand what you're eating and changing your diet in simple fashion makes all the sense of the world. So, you do need fats in your body. You do need fats for the fat-soluble vitamins, A, D, E, and K. You do need fat for hormone production. Good sources of healthy fats, of course, nuts and seeds, avocados, cold-pressed extra virgin olive oil, fatty fish, grass-fed butter and ghee, coconut and MCT oil. So there are a lot of good options to have. So once again, the comments include keeping things as natural as humanly possible.
So we already have a question, just real quick on
Yep.
this topic, and someone on Reddit says, "I always thought that olive oil was a better alternative to butter as far as bread dunking is concerned. Is this study refuting that?"
No, it's true that olive oil is a great source of oil. So extra virgin cold-pressed olive oil is great. There have been studies talking about anti-infective properties. Olive oil helps to kill bacteria like Helicobacter. It's a very natural, safe, and simple oil for your body. Now, the difference between olive oil and butter may be somewhat negligible, but both have been shown to be safe and healthy for your body. Margarine certainly is not because of the trans fat, but margarine's pushed on everybody like crazy because it's really a sales mechanism, and some of the other seed oils as well. But I think if there are two good oils to have in your diet, and I've said this for many years, olive oil, of course, fish oil, of course, because it decreases prostaglandins, decreases the inflammatory cascade, may decrease extra clotting or stickiness of your blood. So there are people who take a little bit of fish oil in the morning and take a tablespoon of olive oil at night. I talk about this all the time. Or vice versa. Some people want the olive oil in the morning and the fish oil at night, whichever you like. But I think you do need some good fats and oils in your diet, and that's where they should come from.
So personal question, things like, I can't believe it's not butter. Does that mean it's just margarine, or it's basically
It's manipulated.
It's a less healthy alternative, correct?
And look, there are some people who make their own butter.
My wife included.
I like the idea of people making their own, growing their own, doing everything with a controlled environment. Now, if you have a garden, I tell everybody to do it. Take a little piece of property, turn over the soil. You can test the soil if you want to be really scientific about it. Turn over the soil, make sure it's nice and healthy, and you can put in some wonderful components of nutrients. Some people like cow manure, peat moss, etc., potting soil, etc. There are a lot of different things you could do to make the soil nice and rich. Some people will put vitamins and vitamin powders within a soil. So there are a lot of different ways to turn this over. And composting, you can use eggshells and some of the food that are leftovers or scraps from foods or chicken bones and such, and put those into the soil as well. Turn it over. The time to start doing that is now. So as that breaks down, you get far more nutrients from the soil. And it's not hard to grow tomatoes, peppers, eggplant, cucumber, squash. They pretty much grow themselves. I tell people that the past few years on the deck off of my kitchen, I've taken some of the tomato bushes that you can get at Hicks or even at Home Depot, and they're very vibrant eggs. They're Roma tomatoes, and you just water them, and it doesn't take much, and they get a decent amount of sun, and you'll get a bush full of these great little tomatoes that are sweet and delicious. So it doesn't have to be that you have to have some gigantic, massive undertaking, for a garden. I think you could do a lot of this on your own. And then, as I always say, and I just ordered this, the Garden, Gardyn device you could have inside your house, put it in a nice little corner up against a wall. It's a self-contained device where you have tubes that you put these little pods into, and your vegetables will grow out of that. You have the light source, you have the watering source that comes from the bottom and waters the plants, and you've got great vegetables, your own great vegetables all year long. You don't have to really get dirty to do anything else or different. So if you can, grow your own. And now with Garden, Gardyn, you can live in an apartment and have your own garden. And you could probably put 30 different things in this setup and have your own best grown vegetables and foods. Why not?
Yeah. And a lot of people think it's like BS because they'll be like, oh, well, there's no soil for it to grow in. Where's the nutrients? And actually they give you, it's basically like a solution that is high in nutrients, and you mix that with the water, and it's
Correct.
That's it.
So it's getting light, water, nutrients, and you should see some of these things grow. And of course, you see the advertisements on Instagram and some of these social media spots, and you go to their website and you see this. I've had dozens of patients who've set it up over the past few months, and they love it. Why not? It's easy. It's genius. I remember a few years ago I was upstate hiking, and I stayed at a cool little kind of a bed and breakfast place. But the way that, and it was a beautiful old building. I mean, it was definitely 100 and change years old. But the proprietor, the owner, made it into like suites, and they were very nice. You know, you had your bathroom, you had, a hot tub, and beautiful little suites in an old home. And in the kitchen, they had this system similar to what garden is. I don't know that it was garden back then, but it had all the herbs, in one corner of the kitchen growing in this hydroponic light-based device. Then another thing in another part of the room were vegetables. I said, wow, this is genius. I wish I would have thought of that.
I wish they patented it.
Yeah, I wish I would have thought and patented it. I mean, it's a genius idea. So yes, you can get herbs and grow them in your house. The smell will be wonderful. You can get flowers and grow them in your house. At Hicks Nurseries and a few other ones, there's Cosentino's in Glen Cove. It's terrific. I got my fig trees there, and they're wonderful fig trees. You can get them 4 or 5 feet tall with 30 or 40 fig buds on them, and they'll continue to grow. Put them in the ground, cover them throughout the winter. You'll get a ton of wonderful, healthy figs. But they have a variety of different things. I bought a jasmine bush once. I'm going to buy it again this year. I set it out in the backyard, right near the window coming out of my kitchen where the sliding door is. And the smell of that jasmine with those flowers as it was blooming was unbelievable. And I'd open the window and that smell would come into the house. It's wonderful to be able to do these things. So I'm not a green thumb. I'm not, perfect at any of this, but I like to fiddle around with it. It's just nice. It's fun. And yeah, you can get great food from what you can grow on your own. 888-420-9272 is the phone number. If you'd like to call in to ask a question, you could do so now. Let's see. We have
I just had one. I lost
an email from Ken. He's got shoulder pain and can't raise his arm straight up, can't throw a ball. Typically, that points towards a tear of the supraspinatus tendon that goes from a muscle above the spine of your scapula in your back that goes underneath your arm and around up to the front that allows you to pull and to move, go up your back and kind of throw the ball. So an MRI is really important to look at that to see how much damage you have there. Some people have little tears and have a lot of pain. Some people have arthritic changes over years in their joint. Other individuals have multiple tears, supraspinatus, infraspinatus, teres. So the MRI will show all of that. Typically, the first step after the MRI is to look and evaluate it. And in my world, we like to do stem cell therapy to just take your own cells from your body. Takes a minute and a half to extract, spin them for a half hour, and then inject them right to where the damage is in your shoulder. And we have ample evidence, many thousands of patients I've treated over the years, where we've had great joint results, great results for Parkinson's, MS, Alzheimer's, stroke, COPD, diabetes, erectile dysfunction, liver, kidney, heart failure, lupus, rheumatoid, diabetes, the list goes on and on. So a lot of that information you can see on the website, patients who've had it done with wonderful outcome and result. So in many cases, people will try to look at a surgical option, but many times the surgery, it doesn't meet the right criteria to be able to have surgery done. And doctors may recommend, a surgeon might recommend doing physical therapy, pushing and pulling, and sometimes that makes the patient worse. So those are people in limbo. We certainly see a lot of those patients and do stem cell for them with great result. So that would be a good outcome, or certainly a good idea to understand that.
So, a couple comments. Happy St. Patrick's Day. And
yes.
We have I love the green today, Doc. So
I did this on purpose. Okay. I went to an event the other night with some friends. We went to a yacht club, and there was a party there, and I wore my beautiful green jacket with my cool pocket square and my cool appropriate green checkered shirt, and had a wonderful time. So I thought today is the day, and we've got to be appropriate for all our different listeners and all different realms and such. So I have the green jacket on now. And as I've been told, I believe St. Patrick was Italian.
Hey, Listen.
So can't go wrong with that. We'll have to dig a little bit into the research on that, Frankie. Maybe we can.
I did a bit of digging.
Very
It
gently
does
dig,
seem
yes.
definitely some Roman roots there.
Some Roman roots. So he must have been a great cook.
Hey,
He might have been a great singer. You never know.
looks like that may have been the case.
It's entirely possible.
And we're honored to join the heritage.
You know what's funny? When people talk about their background, for those people who've looked at Ancestry.com and tracing generations back and here and there and doing some of the genetic testing, overwhelmingly, everybody that I've spoken to in my practice, when they've done that, they find that they have a little bit of this, a little bit of that. You know, all the European-based individuals, and even in South America, because many people came over, have multiple backgrounds in their DNA because, you know, if you're in Florence or you feel like going to Switzerland or you're in one country, France, go to Spain, Ireland, you can get to these other countries in no time. And of course, it may have been a very long buggy ride or a horse ride or whatever they rode back then, if it were back very far and very long ago. But, you know, since modern transportation takes nothing to get to these other countries, and I'm jealous of the fact that you can be in Italy and visit all of Europe, you know, over the course of year to year and have all this amazing food, of course, culture, history, knowledge, everything at your fingertips.
And like you wouldn't even have left the area of Texas,
Correct.
here. It's
Correct.
crazy.
So that's what I'm a little bit jealous of. And every time I've gone to Europe, I absorb everything I possibly can, save all sorts of ideas and recipes, and buy artwork. And I've put that artwork up in my office. Over all the years I've been in practice, I'll get a great poster from the Uffizi Gallery, etc. So I love putting these things together so people can see them.
We do have a question on the garden. It says, hey, Doc, I live in an apartment with no outdoor space, and I want to grow fresh greens. Is the garden a good option for
Absolutely.
small spaces?
Absolutely.
And then he asks, how much can I realistically harvest from it?
I think you could put 30 little pods in there and harvest anything
30?
that you would. Yeah.
Wow.
You would normally. You want to pull it up?
Yeah.
Gardyn.
I had a smaller version from like back in the day before these nice ones came out.
So you could put lots of things in there. Your vegetables. You know, some people will put herbs and spices, or I think there are bigger ones and smaller ones,
Yep.
but
Up to
they don't
30
take up that much
plants.
space. Up to 30 plants.
Yeah, and it's only, the footprint is 2 square feet. So there's your answer.
Yeah. So I would have thought it was like 4 feet wide and 1.5 feet deep.
Yeah, you can get a 4 foot wide. It's 1 foot or 4 feet. Yeah, so they got 2 big.
Either way, you
bigger
can
versions.
easily pop that in your apartment and just eat awesome, great, perfectly healthy vegetables. Now, you're not going to be able to put squash
They get
or
big.
cucumbers in there. Well, because they run.
Right.
I did it. I had a very big garden when I first bought my house, and I cut away and cleaned away a 50 by 60 foot part of the property. Unfortunately, my trees around it grew so much that I couldn't use that space without cutting all the trees down. And I don't want to go through all that. But I planted 300 plants, and at the edge of the garden, I planted pumpkin and squash. And those roots kept going and going and going. It went like 40 yards out of the garden proper. And of course, we got tons of zucchini and squash and all of that, but it just doesn't stay in one place. It just goes. So yeah, that would be hard to do that unless you want to have your house look like Jumanji.
That's how I learned that boxers or dogs will just, if they're having a little fun, they'll eat a cucumber because they go
yeah.
all the way over the fence and they're like chewing
yeah.
on it.
And yeah, there are critters who, go to your garden. I had to put a gigantic fence up that was a mesh wire with rubber on it, real green, so it was kind of hidden and to keep the animals out. But the animals think you're making all this stuff for them. So
Yeah, and someone's saying on the comments that now Garden uses AI to help monitor the plant health. So
just genius. I'm just always late to the invention. I wish that I could have invented this because it's all set up for you. Just put it together and everything is taken care of. I think you just got to put some water in the bottom of the device every now and then. But it's the greatest idea.
yeah, and just, there is one thing that you just always have a problem with, and it's like, how many birds are going to come and eat this? How many insects are going to do this? It's like, that's all gone. It's amazing.
You have to cover, like I have blackberry bushes down the side on a hill, and you got to kind of cover them with a mesh so that the birds and animals can't go get them. Same thing with figs, but, got to give a little bit back to the animal community.
Right.
when I first moved to the house, I bought a plant feeder. And I took this big, long stick. It looks like a big hook stick, kind of like a big metal device, and bent over the hook. And I put the bird feeder there, filled it up with a ton of bird seed, went inside, came out, and minutes later it was empty. I'm like, why is there no feed? I just put that in there.
Squirrel.
And I looked on the bottom on the ground, and there was a bunch of it on the ground. I'm like, well, it didn't leak out. And I said, okay, I'm going to fill it up again. I went inside, stood by the window. There were hundreds of birds, like a Hitchcock movie, that just went down to eat all that feed. I said, well, that's ideas out the window. So my other comment, to be polite for those friends who are here in New Jersey, in Europe, you have all these wonderful countries to travel to. Here, closest is Jersey. I mean, Jersey's cool. I love Jersey. They have my residency there. And our good friend Mike Crispy is a Jersey boy, but
it's okay. He's from here, so
well, he's from here and then went there.
Yeah.
Okay, 888-420-9272. Let's take some questions and calls.
We got some serious questions. I was holding off. We were having a little bit of fun, but here we go. Back to serious. Can you share stories for healing grade 1 meniscus tears from stem cells?
Yes. So there are a lot of people that have degeneration or damage in the knee. It's probably the most common joint to be damaged because it has to bear the weight of the torque and the rotation and the weight of your body. And if your foot is planted in a roughly non-slipping and secure fashion, and you twist and turn or quickly move, you can grind on that meniscus. It's the cushion between your bones. And it's not hard to tear it. Just like it's not hard to tear ligaments and tendons of your shoulder, your hip, or other parts of your body. So if you look at all the different joint issues, we see more knees than almost anything. And just like with the back, your low back is the area we see more problems with because of sacroiliac wear and tear and shear. So over many years of doing STEM, we probably have done more knees than almost any other joint. Maybe shoulders are number 2 and low back maybe number 3, etc. But the idea is that if you take your own cells from your body and put them into that joint, it's a closed environment, of course. People know that. You have the fluid inside your knee. It's synovial fluid. But if you inject your stem cells into that area and it's a closed environment, here's a little diagram: front, side, lateral, collateral ligament. Looking at from posterior, medial collateral ligament. If you look at that and you put the stem cells there, they'll go right to the area of damage and degeneration and weave in and become brand new tissue. So that's how stem cells work. I think the first clinical trial I got started with years ago when I first started doing STEM was for joints and knees because, it was arthritis. It's the most common thing. And all the other ones followed soon after within the next year or two. So it's straightforward. There's no downside, no side effect, no risk. It's just taking those stem cells out from a little bit of bone marrow. It's a minute and a half to extract, spin for a half hour, and then inject into the joint. Now, as you might expect, some people that have a minor wear and tear will heal faster. Some people that have multiple areas of damage will take a little bit longer. So we've had the younger population, 20s and 30s, over the course of even a week or two say, my knee is not as swollen. It doesn't feel as bad. I can get around a little better and get up and down the stairs. Of course, we don't want people to do too much activity until, a couple of months have gone by. Let it heal itself, and let's see exactly what strength and stability you have. And similar to one of the gentlemen where we did his hip, and he was a hardcore jiu-jitsu guy. And he was fighting and training. He tore his hip, labrum. We did the injection. He stayed out of it for a couple of months. Gentle activity, very slowly. And by the 3rd month, I think he started training again. And I guess within a couple of months afterwards, he won a competition. And jiu-jitsu is horrible for your joints. So that's a video on the website as well. It's a gentleman with a really short, like a crew cut haircut and a black shirt. So STEM is great because they're your cells from your body, the same language as all your other cells. And their only job is to create and become that tissue that's damaged, become a new version of that tissue.
Wow.
And there's no anesthesia needed, no downside, no side effect, not a big surgical procedure, of course. So a lot of people don't want the surgical mechanism.
That's crazy. Okay. Next one is from Instagram, Good afternoon, doctor.
Hello.
How about people with bad heart health like a stent?
So heart disease is a combination of problems. It's never one thing. So if a person has a stent, they put through a catheter a device in to hold the blood vessel open because too much plaque was accumulating there. But there are lots of reasons for that to happen before they put the stent in. And you ask anybody who has a stent, most people have one stent, then a second and a third. And I've seen people that have gone for 6, 7, or 8 stents. But they're not really changing the cause of the mechanism which allows those things to be needed or allows the underlying problem to occur. So if we talk about decreasing the ability for plaque to build up, there are probably 50 things that cause plaque. Bacteria, viruses, heavy metals, high cholesterol, triglycerides, low HDL, high LDL, small LDL elevations bad, homocysteine elevations, C-reactive protein, the list is long. And if we work on all of those things and decrease the ability for them to create that problem, you're going to decrease the potential for that plaque to build. There are some studies as well using combination IVs, chelation, phosphatidylcholine may decrease the burden because you're bonding to heavy metals that would otherwise become bound to the LDL cholesterol, the bad cholesterol, become a foam cell, which correlates and becomes plaque. So there are a lot of different steps there. And there was a study, it's on my desk here somewhere, that stem cell therapy done intravenously decreases the inflammatory cascade that helps to create plaque, because plaque production is an inflammatory mechanism. And this is absolute. I got it off Google Scholar. Maybe on Friday or Saturday, I'll take that study and talk about that so people can hear about it. So we're looking at all the risk factors, changing them, and helping to decrease what can become a progression of plaque buildup in the vessels. Now, depending upon the age of the person, people that get stents are not teenagers and 20, 30-year-olds, mostly. You want to look at the strength of your heart, the contraction of your heart. And on an echocardiogram, and we do all cardiac testing in the office. We have a company comes in to do all that. They bill your insurance. You can see if the ejection fraction is decreasing, which means that the strength of contraction of the heart can decrease. And there's a perfect place for stem cells because when you do the IV stem, they'll go to your organs, they'll get to your heart, set up shop, and make brand new heart cells to create strong contraction. And we've seen that in literature, but we've also seen it with patients. So you have to look at the heart and everything going on with the heart, not just looking at the potential plaque in the arteries.
I learn a lot on this show. I'll be honest. All right.
I have so much stuff stuck in my head, and I probably have a bigger cranium than most people, I think. I was at a wedding on Friday, and a lot of friends were there. It was a wonderful wedding. Good friend Joe and Maureen, their daughter Sarah, got married to a lovely guy named Zach. And it was a great group of people. Lovely little place out in Greenport called the Halyard. Charming, right on the beach. Funny thing is that years ago, I sponsored a softball team with my friends that I knew from kindergarten and high school and college, called it CC Medical Services. That's my medical practice. So just about every guy that was on that softball team was at the wedding.
Went to you after? Oh.
Yeah. So, of course, we look a little different than we did in the late 80s or early 90s. Well, I think I still look good. But some of the people I didn't really recognize because, that many years, things change. So I had the best time joking around with all these people, and I texted my friend the day after to make sure he was okay because, day after the wedding, everything is all crazy, and sometimes people drink too much. And I said, just want to make sure everybody's okay. I said, it was really great coming to the wedding/reunion for CC Medical. And, of course, one of my friends laughed at that. But it was great to see, 15 people that I hadn't seen in many years. But it's good to get together with people. People should do more of that.
That you might have its own business model if you just go to these older guys playing softball and just hand out your card because they're gonna.
Yeah, absolutely. Hey, look, I never knew it until a couple of years ago that there are softball leagues that are 50-year-old, 60-year-old, 70, 80-year-old leagues that guys are still playing softball well into their 80s.
That's crazy.
That's amazing. I mean, they're not running fast, but they're still getting out there and doing it.
That's awesome.
which is terrific.
Wow. Love that. We love a good slow pitch. We got another one from Instagram. My parents are showing early signs of dementia. Can stem cell help and slow this process down?
Absolutely. So STEM has been used for many things, as I mentioned before. But we have patients with Parkinson's, MS, Alzheimer's, of course, dementia of different types and stages, liver, kidney, heart failure, the list goes on and on. But when you do stem cells for memory loss or dementia, brain problems, eye problems, neurologic issues, we do intravenous, so it goes through all your blood over and over and over again, keeps cycling around, and the stem get off the train, set up shop, and make brand new cells where there's damage or degeneration. That's their only reason to live. They're looking for areas of damage, degeneration, and inflammation, and helping to create repair. But with brain-related issues, we also do a nasal droplet, where when the stem, after they're spun, we put them into an IV bag, let that run into your body over about 10, 15 minutes. At the same time you're doing the IV part, we have you breathe a nebulizer to clear your nasal passages, open up your vessels, and we lay you down on the table with your chin pointed towards the ceiling. Then we take 2 syringes one at a time and drip the stem cells into your nostril. And as you drip them in slowly, drip, drip, it absorbs into the back of your nasal cavity, into your vessels, into your brain. So that's why we see these types of results. So that's ideal because there's no drug, no risk, no downside, no chemical, no side effect. They're your cells doing the job that they were always meant to do. That's why I think, and I say that stem cells is probably the greatest discovery in the history of medicine, because you're repairing just about any damage and degeneration in your system or in your body.
Crazy. Moving on, we got one from Reddit. What are the most common mistakes people make that speed up aging? And how does genetics versus lifestyle impact lifespan?
Great question. Two-part question.
Two-parter.
I like two-part questions. Big fan of two-part questions, because then I know the person's thinking and they've got this process of understanding and, it's going on in their head. I love all this. So the things that make you age fast are the things that generate free radical damage. So too much alcohol. Alcohol will wipe out vitamins. All the sugar from the alcohol can damage your blood vessels, your nerves, put plaque in your blood vessels. The glycation that occurs from too much sugar, whether it's from alcohol or whether it's from high sugar foods, causes damage inside your cells and certainly can affect your brain. If it wipes out the B vitamins, your brain's not working well. Alcohol is one biggie. Smoking, biggie, biggie, biggie. There are 4,000 chemicals they use to make cigarettes, and there are heavy metals in cigarettes. So that's devastating to your body. For some people that have too much sugar in their diet, because the sugar can damage your cells. The sugar can make your blood sugar go up. You dump insulin. Insulin stuffs the sugar inside your cells, can affect your blood vessels, etc., make you want to crave more sugar. So there are a variety of different things that make you age faster. Also, just a poor diet, junk food. People eat junk food with all the chemicals in the junk food are not doing themselves any service. You're probably getting a little benefit from whatever protein or food you're having, but the bad part of it outweighs the good, whether it's too much salt, too much fat, too much chemicals. You want to eat as organically as humanly possible. People not doing exercise. Daily exercise, walking around the block every day, riding a bike indoor, outdoor, whatever you want to do, Pilates, yoga, going to the gym. That helps to keep you young and healthy because you're flooding oxygen, vitamins, minerals, and hormones into your cells. So no exercise, drinking, smoking, too much sugar, too much junk food are all major components of damaging your cells and damaging your body. That's why we want you to learn about your body, fine-tune and fix until your body becomes strong and it functions as it did maybe 10 or 15 or 20 years ago.
Yeah, you're actually reminding me, and I'll try to get this up for our next show. But I remember going through, it was just like a compilation slideshow of different people that are twins, right? Mm-hmm. And you see one who smoked and one that doesn't, and they're like 45, 50 years old. And like the difference between the two.
Staggering.
It looks like one's 20 years older than the other. It's like.
I mean, there are probably different ways to say it, but the more you pour chemicals into your body, the more you damage your body. You see it with a lot of people. You see it with celebrities and actors because they want to have their face in the media all the time. And some you just look at, well, what happened to them? I think a little bit of sunlight's good. And you could look at people that live in the southernmost areas, and they usually have better tan skin because they're getting a little bit more sun. They're not out there baking until they roast and burn and peel, which is horrible for you anyway, because that's a big free radical damage of your skin. But those individuals, they age better because they have a lot more vitamin D. And if you look at the African-American population, this has been a standard for a very long time. They always look younger than everybody else compared to their age. I had a lovely woman who is in my practice probably 8 years ago, and she came in from Trinidad and with her family, and she was lovely, and we're chatting, et cetera. And I didn't really look at their chart to, read all the demographic stuff. And she was talking about she had a little farm on her property. She had goats, she had chickens, all her own stuff. She grew everything. She would go to the market and get fresh food every day. She would get fresh fish caught locally. And down there, the waters are probably dramatically better than here or anywhere else. And she did all the work around her house. She did her own gardening. I said, wow, that's wonderful. I said, you look great. I said, you don't have any wrinkles. She said, yes. She says, yeah, I don't. And I said, I don't understand. Then I opened the chart. I looked at her age. She was 103. 103 years old, no wrinkles. And she was fit and spry, and her vision, her hearing, every part of her function was great. So there's a lot to be said for eating the best foods that you can, doing a lot of physical activity. I mean, of course, I'm sure genes have something to do with it, but, she had no wrinkles. And I kept thinking about that. And to this day, I think about that. Wow.
I'd say something along the lines of not living in this country helped.
Yeah. Living in a perfect scenario, an island, and maybe she doesn't have any stress or whatever it is,
That's unbelievable. 103.
103.
Unreal. We got another one on from TikTok. Said, I recently did a DNA test, and they said that I have genes linked to a longer lifespan. What does that actually mean? Does it mean I'll live longer, or are there other factors that matter more?
So there are lots of factors. So if you're eating junk food, smoking, drinking, and doing all the bad things, then that's going to change the day-to-day physical mechanism that your body has to deal with, It's like if you have great genes, but someone kicks you in the shin every day for a couple of years, your shin's going to be swollen and painful, and it's going to be problematic. If you're eating junk, it's going to be stuff going on in your body that's not good, you're not going to like. So it's good to have that genetic mechanism, but it's not the entire picture.
Got it. We got from one from Rumble on the same
Rumble,
category.
awesome.
Rumble, you beat us out last week. All right. I've heard that some people's genes make them more prone to diseases like Alzheimer's or heart disease as they age. If I have those genes, is there anything I can do to reduce the risk?
Well, yeah. So the genetic picture, if you look at that, it plays a role. It's not the entire picture. You can't have individuals that have great genes and just kind of go crazy and do what they want to do. So certainly for those people that have the genetic predisposition to disorders, you want to research and learn and understand what's going on with those individuals. And certainly if they have a higher cholesterol, tighten up their diet, do the exercise every day, get the blood flowing, get more oxygen in, have perfect levels of vitamins, minerals, and hormones. Because if your hormones drop, doesn't matter if your genes say you're doing well, your body's going to change because your hormones have dropped. So the genes are not a complete controller. They're a good thing to have. And if you have them for abnormal problems, then you've got to research that abnormal problem and see what else is contributing to that. And we've done this stem cell therapy for people that have dementia and Alzheimer's that had some genetic predisposition. We've done it for heart disease. We've done it for a lot of different disorders that may have had genetic predisposition towards it. So you still have to be the detective and learn every component of that genetic issue.
All right, we have another one regarding, I don't know if this is, I believe it's based on a Netflix show, Blue Zones. But it says communities like Miami Beach are trying to become blue zones by promoting healthier lifestyles. What changes are they implementing, and can urban areas realistically achieve such a transformation?
I haven't seen the show.
So I just Googled it. I remember I watched it probably 2 years ago, but the actual definition of a blue zone are areas that are characterized by high rates of individuals who live to be 100 years or older.
So the idea of watching and scrutinizing people at any age and getting them to eat right, exercise, of course, makes all the sense in the world. And for the people that live well into their 90s and get to be towards 100, it makes sense. They're probably doing a lot of things right to begin with. So I think it's a great idea. The question would be, and there are studies that show this, if you're living in areas that have a lot of pollution, like an urban area, that's bad because the pollution and the car exhaust and whatever else is going on, industry-related, pollution, will cause damage and can damage your lungs. And if your lungs are damaged, you pick up a bug, now you can't fight that bug terribly well because your lungs are damaged. So there are a lot of little things, caveats that, you have to look at before you say that a person's in the right zone or in the right health and is maintaining a great health going forward. That all has to be proven by the blood test. And some people a pulmonary function test and some people an MRI. You can't just take people at whatever age and just kind of put them together and, try to create a mechanism. You still have to look at all those things and look at their testing.
And we have someone on YouTube just saying that I've read that indoor air can sometimes be more polluted than outdoor air. What are the biggest sources of indoor pollution, and how can we improve air quality in the home?
Well, indoor pollution could be anything. Persons living near, facilities or factories, because that air is going to get into your house. You open your windows, you open your door. Some people have equipment or machines in their house that are really not terribly safe, and some people use, heating devices, whether it's home or at work. And you could smell this when you get into someone's home. You got to clean the ducts in your house. If you have the ducts that, push your air out for air conditioning and heat, there's a lot of things that can, correlate with that. There's some people where the house is built upon areas that have damage or problems in the soil. And people who go to buy a house, and I think this has been a law in New York for a long time, you have to test the soil to make sure there are not contaminants in that soil. God forbid you go to create a garden and you have lead paint in the soil from your home because it's an old home and they painted with lead paint years ago. Or there are other chemicals. There are houses that are built on landfill. And it's very interesting and curious that certain parts of Long Island, like Belmore and Merrick, have very high cancer rates, breast cancer and some of the others. And a lot of the homes there were built on landfill. So you don't know what you're getting exposed to. That's why you want to test for all of these things. For years, allergy-wise, we've been telling people to get someone to come and test your home for molds. If you live in an area with a high water table and you dig down a little bit and there's water there, molds love and thrive when there's water in the soil. Some people have a moldy basement. Who knows what they're being exposed to? And unchecked, water can cause black mold, and it's very dangerous for you.
Right.
So it's good to have your house evaluated. Usually people, when they buy a house, will get a survey. The people who do those surveys do a really good job because they check everything.
Right. Yeah, it's crazy to know, I believe it's Bethpage on Long Island. They have so many issues with their water table and, the pollutants in the water because back in the day, Grumman had all of these huge plants and they left and they basically illegally dumped most of their chemicals. Mm-hmm. And we're still dealing with it today.
Yeah.
All these things.
You've got to be super thorough in checking and investigating and looking and reading and learning. If there's one thing I want people to take away from any conversation I have is learn, read, look. Don't just believe something that is told to you without researching it. And that holds true for all medical concerns.
Yeah, and I see this question on TikTok asking about candles being safe, and I know we've discussed this, so I feel like there's some juice there for you.
Well, yeah, so environmental research and doctors who do allergy and other issues and PhDs have been looking at the risk of candles and the chemicals in the candles and, lighting the candle and having that smoke, kind of permeate your entire house could be a dangerous thing. We look at candles and say, oh, they smell great. And I want my house to smell good. Who doesn't? But there may be significant risk from what you're breathing in. There are companies that make essential oils, which are super healthy for you. And you could either put those oils in a jar and put those little wooden sticks in like diffusers and have that beautiful smell sort of get into it around, the rooms in your home. There's another company called Aroma 360 that takes those natural oils and such and will put them into a device that just gently mists those things into the air. They're known to help to kill viruses and bacteria and such. And they even make an adapter that where you take this machine with a decent-sized canister of the essential oil, put it in there, and they put it into the ducts in your house so it goes through and makes your house smell good, but it's also helping to kill germs and things that are in the ducts. Another genius idea that I just
Dang it.
didn't think of. Wish I would have invented it. So that's a great deal safer.
And we have a rumbler just saying that they stopped using perfume because they heard that there's a lot of toxicity in it. And I'm just quick Google search for formaldehyde in some perfume. What is going on? How is this legal?
The chemical companies have been trying to kill us slowly but surely over many, many years.
Formaldehyde? Yeah.
Well, remember when a product is made, and it could be any product, the manufacturer wants to put something in it to make it stable longer and make it last longer, because if something only lasts for an hour, it's not going to be able to sell on the market. And same thing for foods. Look at all the chemicals in foods. We spoke again, today before the program about Richard Lewis writing that book about chemical additives. It's scary. You read that, you're like, you want to make sure that you have only organic, healthy food. You put in good, you get out good. You put in bad, everything goes bad.
About to throw out my cologne. I'm not happy, doctor. We have, changing it up a little bit, we got one from YouTube. Is there any real evidence that anti-aging drugs like metformin or rapamycin work?
So there is evidence with metformin and even some of those weekly injectables that decrease the sugar metabolism. The importance of changing the sugar metabolism is that you're not going to damage your blood vessels, your nerves. You're not creating glycation inside your cells. So there is evidence that modifying that sugar effect is very important for inside your cells and all of your organs, and that has anti-aging potential. Methylene blue, which has been used as a dye back in the 1800s, has also been used as a medical intervention or recommendation, which helps your mitochondria. And it allows them to work better, it gives you more energy, creates strength, and there's anti-aging literature on methylene blue, taking a capsule once a day at 25 milligrams. Rapamycin is a drug, an mTOR inhibitor, that affects your immune response, and it's used for people that have cancers and immune dysfunction, and they've realized that it has anti-aging benefits. So when they gave rapamycin to mice in studies, the mice lived 3 times longer because of the addition of rapamycin once a week to their plan and their observation, 3 times longer. It's been used on humans for many, many years, many decades, but the benefit may also be that you're allowing your immune system to do a better job, you're decreasing the inflammatory cascade, and there may be a dozen things that they believe that rapamycin does. So I think it makes a great deal of sense. Because when you look at the average person, I'm not saying smart people like the caller who wants to know about these things. When you look at the average person, they're doing more things to damage themselves than to help themselves. So I think there's a great deal of promise, a great deal of research, and it makes a lot of sense to consider doing some of these things to be able to get your body to be healthier and stronger. Makes sense?
Wow. All right. On to the next rumble. I know that heavy metals like lead and arsenic can contaminate drinking water, but what about pesticides and pharmaceutical residues? How much of a problem is this, and can we regulate water filters to remove it?
Pesticides are all bad, and pesticides can be found kind of anywhere. Look at Roundup, and that causes lymphoma and leukemia. So we know that. It's on the shelves in stores still, and the company that makes it has been sued for billions of dollars, but I guess they're making so much money they don't care. You could look that up. So glyphosate.
To physically have something going on like that, in court and just being able to keep it on the shelf. It's like,
It's crazy. So pesticides are meant to destroy pests, and they also help to destroy humans. They're meant to damage living cells. So there are pesticides all over the place. Years ago, similar to what I was reading for Richard Lewis's book, I was looking at different chemicals and their connection to cancer. So carbon tetrachloride, which a lot of guys in body shops and gas stations and car shops would use to clean carburetors because they got rid of all the gunk and the carbon in the carburetor, causes liver cancer. Benzene, another solvent, causes leukemia. Aniline dyes, which are used to dye plastics, can cause bladder cancer, and the list goes on and on and on. Now, those aren't pesticides. Those are chemicals used for specific reasons, but pesticides are even worse. Paraquat and a few of the other pesticides used to kill different animals, mosquitoes, termites, have been linked with Parkinson's disease. So you don't really have to look at 1,000 studies. You could look at a few and say, hey, I get it. These are all bad. I've got to get completely away from these things. I have a guy that comes to my house, and he uses a spray, a little pump spray. He makes it himself. It's a chrysanthemum oil product, which is 1,000,000,000% safe. But bugs and flies and mosquitoes and ticks hate it. It's just concentrated plant, chrysanthemum. Sprays it around, safe for my dogs, and you don't get mosquitoes and you don't have the ticks around. So that's what people should use.
Right. And I'll just add to that because I happened to look into this a while back. But, if you ever look at corn, in America and you look at corn in any other country, they look very different. And it's just funny because everyone knows like the joke. It's like, oh, you eat corn, you're going to see it later, in the toilet, uninterrupted. And it's like an ongoing joke. But when you actually look into it, and RFK happened to be the guy who blew the lid off of this, like maybe last year. But ever since 1995 or 96, they realized, these scientists realized that they were able to take this gene, basically they call it Roundup Ready. So they were able to find this gene where if the plant had that gene in, it would be untouched by Roundup. You could spray everything and every living thing around will turn into nothing, but that crop will be perfect. Yeah. So basically this is with corn, this is with sugar beets, cotton, and soy. And basically they put this gene in and they just douse the fields with Roundup, and everything that's not that plant dies.
Yep.
Obviously, it's affecting the country because all of these corn allergies. And it gets into
your food.
Right.
Just like they found glyphosate in a variety of different foods, and that's why. So genetically modified is the term that they use, and there are probably other terms that don't sound like they're bad that are being used, but when they create a grain, and I know this for a fact, there was a big study on this and big article and commentary on this. So there's a parent company who makes glyphosate, and they're unbelievably powerful. But when they make grain, if you put that grain in your yard, you'll never be able to grow anything in that soil again other than that grain. So you have to keep buying from them, and that keeps you buying from that company. If the grain or whatever you're growing kind of gets into my property, I'll never be able to grow anything except that grain because of what it does to the soil. True story. So they're creating a propagation of all the farmers having to use that grain so that the things will grow.
That is insane. And then someone's just, I guess, responding to what we had said before regarding perfumes and stuff. It says, I recently saw a study saying that air pollutions could be linked to cognitive decline and dementia. It's asking, how does pollution affect the brain, and should I avoid fragrances?
Well, pollution can affect the brain like anything can affect the brain. Heavy metals, chemicals, they get into your brain and get into your bloodstream. You breathe them in and get them into your lungs. They could damage everything that they come into contact with. Just like heavy metals are 2 and 3 plus charge, and they're the same as calcium, magnesium, potassium, iron. So if the minerals are meant to bind at receptors and allow your cell to do what it should do, because binding allows a chemical reaction, a good reaction to occur inside your cells when you're binding your minerals, and your cells thrive on that and everything goes well. If you're blocking the nutrients and minerals from binding because the chemicals are binding, then that cell is going to be damaged. And then a lot of that will cause cell degeneration and cell death. Also, I make a simple analogy of having a brick wall. And if the brick wall is there and I'm a free radical and I grab a brick out of the wall to neutralize my charge, I've damaged that wall. I've caused oxidation. Now, one brick out of a big wall is not necessarily going to destroy it, but you get multiple bricks taken from the wall or multiple sources or evidence of oxidation, and sooner or later you have apoptosis, which is cell death. So that's what these chemicals do.
Unbelievable.
Yep.
We're going
crazy but true.
Let's go to Sicily, doctor.
Absolutely. Dying to go.
So we have a question. Someone just asking, shouldn't they have evacuated the areas of California with these wildfires? ... How many Tesla batteries were breathed in during this brutal catastrophe?
So that's a good question. Whenever wildfires occur, and when the buildings came down in 9/11, could you imagine the amount of chemicals and the chemical exposure in the air at the time? You know, people think wildfire, you're burning wood. All right, yeah, you're burning a lot of wood. What else are you burning? Are you burning plastics in a home? Are you burning metals? Are you burning other chemical? I mean, it's so many things. You know, in a perfect world, you'd want to get people out of there to prevent that exposure. I mean, breathing in dust just from wood and breathing in smoke from wood burning is horrible for your lungs anyway. It's kind of obvious because sooner or later, everybody's been exposed to that. You got your fireplace going or you have your barbecue going and you breathe a little smoke. It's harsh. But imagine if there's arsenic and a lot of these chemicals in melting and burning plastics. That's really bad. So there's a lot to be said about California, but in that circumstance and in the administration, nothing can be said that's good.
Right.
You know?
Yeah, and good point with 9/11.
You cannot say anything good about restricting water getting into the appropriate places and getting into water storage, getting into fire hydrants, and diverting water for fish. The smelt. Wasn't it a smelt?
It was a worthless fish, yes.
That's a plan to create and set the stage for a disaster like this.
Yeah.
And whether you believe in
land grabs?
Conspiracy or not, but it's a land grab. How is it such a coincidence that there was no water available and the governor stopped fire trucks from coming from other states to help because they didn't have the right permits? And 6 months before, you have the insurance companies deciding not to renew policies. So now the people that lost everything can't go back and do anything, and big companies are going to come in and buy that land and do what they want. You can't think of this as being a coincidence.
Well, especially because we already saw this happen with Hawaii, maybe
that's another
less than a year before.
Horrible example. How is it that when you have a wildfire, certain things are not burned? Trees were not burned. Certain houses weren't burned that had blue roofs.
Oh,
please.
You're getting me into it.
Well,
I'm excited.
Fact is fact. And people just have to be a little bit smarter. People have to not trust the things that they're hearing from certain organizations and have to look and learn and read. So, you know, in Canada, wildfires don't start the exact same time at a dozen different areas. And when looking at satellite images, and same thing with California and Hawaii, how does it all start in different places at the same time and grow at the same level in all these places? Because they're created. Usually, and many years ago, I remember, you know, West Hampton, there was a big fire that went right across Sunrise in the parkways and such, and it just had its own progression. Not multiple spots. It was one spot. It came right across, and thankfully it was contained, but you can't have a dozen places start at the exact same time. Read, people, read.
It almost happened again on the island. We just had another
Yeah, we just had another little bit of a problem.
under control.
So, why is my phone not turning off my ringtone? I love my Elvis ringtone, but sometimes it does not turn it off.
Listen, one day the viewers will hear your Elvis voice, which is,
Yes, my Elvis singing voice. One day.
I think Simon Cowell would be impressed personally.
He might be. I could do Elvis, Sinatra, Jim Morrison. Fortunately, I have that kind of low pitch, but
We got one question just real quick. I work in construction and I'm exposed to a lot of dust and chemicals daily. What are the long-term health risks of occupational air pollution, and how can us workers protect ourselves?
A lot of people that breathe these things in all the time sooner or later have lung issues, COPD, emphysema, and they don't have to be smokers.
Right.
Now, if you're a construction worker and you're a smoker,
Double
just
whammy.
really bad combo. If you're a construction worker and a smoker and you eat junk food, really, really, really bad combo. So I'm trying to be a little bit funny, but you have to look at your personal environment. You have to look at working in a place where you have adequate ventilation. You have to either use fans, or every time I've had something done on my house and my buddy who does all the stuff for me that I would need, he fixed a leak in my roof. I mean, anytime something's done, I take these big, giant air purifiers to just purify the air. When I redid my kitchen and we opened a wall up to have a half wall and a beautiful view into the dining room, and my friend Mike Padone is a spectacular stonemason, contractor, fisherman, hunter. He does everything well. We had air purifiers just purify as much of the air as humanly possible. Windows open, fans blowing out, because, you have dust and all that, but you have to be as safe as possible. The second, third, and fourth night of 9/11, my friends and I drove into the city. One of us had worked in a construction facility, so we had all the equipment. I put on rebreathers because the rebreather mask was the only thing that protected you. And we were all, trying to work with the Army, Navy, Air Force, Marines, police, firemen. Everybody was there. And, digging on the pile in a bucket brigade where you, take debris and you put it in the bucket and you bring it down the hill. And it was just the most bizarre, surreal thing I'd ever seen. But I wasn't going to be in that environment without the rebreather, because that's the only thing that would protect you against breathing those things. And unfortunately, as we've seen, a lot of people that were there did not use the rebreathers and then ended up with different cancers. Zadroga he was the guy that had died from all of the exposure. But you have to be as careful as you can in your environment. So absolutely just bring those air purifier HEPA filters and put them anywhere you're working. You can get them at Home Depot. They're not that expensive. I think they're $140, $50.
Yeah. Someone just asked if there's any specific purifier that you recommend.
Honeywell is the name of a very big company that makes those. We've always recommended those. And EnviroCare is the name that they use for one of their filters, because it's got a HEPA filter in it. It traps all the particles, in that filter. You could take the filter out, wash it, et cetera. And there are replacement filters. There are a lot of things you can do. But Honeywell is a good company. And there are a few very good companies that will do that. But you want to get the HEPA filters and the charcoal filters so they can trap as much as it can. Everything from 0.3 microns and bigger, I think, is what those devices do. I've always had them in the office. I always have them in my house.
Yeah. And I'll also say it's always good to have one that has an auto function where once those, parts per, it'll kick on when it feels that the air is slightly under.
And again, they're not expensive. Get a few of them. Put it in your bedroom. Leave it there. Put it in your kitchen, your living room. Just purify, your old home. And certainly take them and put them on work sites. It's a great idea.
All right. Pretty good. I'm going to throw up the number. Anyone?
888-420-9272. If you'd like to call in to ask a question, you could do so now. Let's take a look at a couple of other emails. Gene has some issues with lungs, and he wasn't a smoker, but he feels that he's had asthma for a long time, and that's progressed into some crackling and wheezing noises in his lungs. As you get older and you have inflammation from asthma, which is usually an allergy mechanism, allergy to things you're either breathing, could be chemicals, could be trees, grasses, weeds, molds, could be foods will correlate with that, and other issues may correlate with that. Your lungs become worn. Like any other organ, they become a little brittle. They're not soft and juicy and pliable as they once were when we were younger. And COPD, chronic obstructive pulmonary disease, is where you can't exchange the air in and out and get the oxygen into your lungs, into the alveoli. So we, of course, would look at the allergy mechanism and see whether or not we could change the diet or your environment, use air purifiers, of course. But the most significant thing to use for COPD, emphysema, or even pulmonary fibrosis, which is really, really bad lungs, or bronchiectasis, would be stem cell. You're doing intravenous stem cells. They go through your blood to all organs, including your lungs. Then we do a secondary nebulizer treatment where you're holding the nebulizer device and breathing that mist with the stem cells in it topically to your lungs to create repair in your lungs. And there are videos on the website for that. So you can pretty clearly see how that works. A couple of great videos on COPD. Let's see what else we have here from Carrie. Had a stroke 5 years ago and wanted to know if there are vitamins that may help or minerals that may help. Well, certainly vitamins and minerals are always good for your body, and they help to decrease inflammatory cascade, decrease cardiac risk. Vitamins will help decrease cancer risk, but with a stroke, think of your brain as a fatty little organ, and there's an area inside the body of that organ that either had a blood break, a leak that caused loss of delivery of oxygen, vitamins, minerals, and hormones to part of the brain, and those cells start to die. Other people have full-blown clots, and those clots block the delivery. So years ago, when I got certified in hyperbaric oxygen therapy, hyperbaric was a decent way to compress oxygen in to get to every part of your body. And some people did well with that had stroke. But overwhelmingly, the greatest result with stroke is stem cell therapy, because you're doing intravenous and a nasal approach to put the stem cells directly to where the damage is. And there are great videos on the website about that. A few patients with stroke that have had remarkable benefits. So your own body has amazing capacity to heal itself. We just need to give it that chance to do it.
So this is interesting. Just what we had just spoken about as of 14 minutes ago. New York is officially on a statewide burn ban through May 14th. The State Department of Environmental Conservation says springtime is when most wildfires occur in New York. Mm-hmm. Over the next 2 months, residents are not allowed to burn any open flames outdoors. Good. Open burning is the single... very interesting. I guess... I don't know, bonfires, just nothing in the backyard. Or will we get arrested, doctor?
I remember many years ago that people in different neighborhoods would rake leaves and put them in a pan and burn them. A pail, a big, garbage pail, and burn them, because that was the easiest way to get rid of them. Not a good idea.
Fair.
People shooting off fireworks, invariably fireworks can go awry and hit something that ignites and, can create fire. There are lots of people, I think, that don't respect fire and will do barbecue things. And I remember seeing something crazy on one of the TV shows where a person got on a quad and was kind of running around the backyard, didn't know how to control it, didn't take their hand off the gas or the acceleration, went right into the barbecue and spewed all the hot coals all over an area that, ignited. And then luckily, the person next door ran and got a fire extinguisher and put everything out. But the house could have gone down
easily
in no time because of that. You have to be really careful. I like thinking that I'm forward thinking, and if I'm going to do something, got to make sure, that you have appropriate, whether it's that fireman's blanket that you can throw over a fire and it'll extinguish it, or you've got fire extinguishers all over the house. You should have them in every room. You shouldn't want to have to run from your bedroom to the garage to get a fire extinguisher. You should have them all over the house. And it's just like you have them in your office. I mean, you have to be a little extra careful.
It takes one grease fire on a barbecue, and then you're never going to be short of a fire extinguisher from personal experience.
Yep.
It gets scary. All right, let me see what else we got. Putting up the phone number, 888-420-9272. For our last call.
Let's go to Dominic. We have an email from Dominic to our website. And the website is drcalapai.com. Garden City office 516-794-0404. Forgot to mention that. drcalapai.com, Calapai. And he wants to know about peptides. So peptides are protein sequences that your body works extremely well with. And they can help to do a variety of different things in your body. There are lots of peptides, but the ones that your body requires are the most important. Vitamins that your body's never seen before, like pycnogenol, which is a pine bark extract, it's a good antioxidant, but is it going to do a great deal or create benefit for you? Not necessarily. If your vitamin levels are low, you got to correct the vitamins you have requirement for. You could use other things as maybe an add-on, but then you have to figure out what they're really doing. Just because they say that it's a better antioxidant than something else doesn't mean you're going to get any benefit from it. Peptides, like NAD, which is critically important for just about every biochemical reaction in your body, the chemistry of going from A to B to C to Z. NAD is what allows oxygen to become 36 molecules of ATP. And obviously, creating energy from oxygen is one of the critical things that your body has to do every millisecond. So NAD also helps to repair DNA, repair your organs, your cells. The list is very long. Great for brain function, mood, memory, focus, concentration. So it's ultimately safe. Your body's seen massive amounts of it over your entire lifetime. So if you give you a little bit, where you take a tiny little injection into the skin of your belly or your leg, and you start to see memory, focus, energy, concentration, word retrieval, your body starts to do really well again, endurance with exercise and various activities, then that's what you want. Simorelin, which is the precursor to making IGF-1, your body will make your IGF-1 as a result of using Simorelin. That enables you to have improved hair, skin, nails, memory, focus, energy, mood, sexual drive and function, muscle response to exercise. So there are a lot of things that correcting the peptides that you've always had will do for your body. And we see this all the time because we test people, we make recommendation, we have people fill out a symptom checklist, so they're writing down week to week all the benefits they're getting, and we clearly see those results. And of course, we retest. So very important to put things back into your body that you've always had and you always needed. There are some anti-inflammatory benefits of some of the peptides, but some people don't see that. They'll try it and not get the result. Not everybody's going to respond to everything except the things that your body has requirement for that you're not making as much. So that's why the peptide comment has to be specifically, targeted. Eight 420-9272. If you'd like to call in to ask a question, you could do so now. And for Paula, she has a question about brain speed. So yes, when you're young, your brain is super fast because all the good things are there, vitamins, minerals, hormones. And you could learn a great deal because your brain is wide open. As you get older, your brain slows down because you're not making as many and holding as many new cells in your brain, so your brain shrinks. Memory, focus, concentration start to change. Word retrieval, you walk into a room, what did I come in here for? Where did I put my keys, my sock, my dog, whatever. Poor dog. So you want to look at testing for vitamins, minerals, hormones, correct those. You want to do brain exercises like crossword puzzles and things. NAD works great for your brain. There is a unique test that we do, and it's a brain scan made by a company called Evoke Neuroscience. You wear a funny hat on your head, and it's got a dozen or so openings in it, and we take little tiny, metal blunt electrodes, and we pop them into those holes with a little bit of electrode gel, so it reads the electrical speed of your brain, a P300 test, and tells us how well your brain is doing and how fast it is. And it's broken down to a bunch of different, probably 15 different pages. I had the test on the desk here a while back. We'll talk about this more, and we'll show you what the report looks like. It's colorful, and it just shows you every area of your brain to see what's working fast and what's working slow. And then we could adapt to that and create correction. With our patients that have Parkinson's, MS, Alzheimer's, a variety of these neurologic issues, we do that test beforehand to see how bad it is, and then do the stem cell therapy, and then within 6 months later, repeat that to show the difference and the comparison. It makes all the sense in the world. Vito, a question: how much alcohol is okay? How much is too much? So this varies person to person. I'm not going to say that you should gauge it on how much a person can drink and still think that they can drive home or function even though they're somewhat impaired. That's just not a good way of looking at it or assessing it. I think you have to look at their vitamin levels. If their vitamin levels are low and they're drinking a bunch, then you're wiping out your vitamins. You want to correct those. I don't think there's anything wrong with a glass of wine a day with a meal. If a person once in a while wants to have, a harder drink, vodka or otherwise, I think you can do that here and there. Some people opt to do it on the weekends. But going beyond that, for some people, it's really bad. For other people, they may do fine with that. But you have to look at your liver enzymes on a blood test. If you're drinking a lot and your liver enzymes are high, you're in a bad place. If your vitamins are depleted, your liver enzymes are elevated, etc., you have stomach issues, you have to think about cutting back. Okay, 888-420-9272. We're down, running towards the end of the program. If you'd like to ask a question, do so now.
And if you're watching this on the replay, you could always email, inbox, Instagram, YouTube, TikTok.
There are lots of ways to get in touch with us.
Yeah, absolutely. And feel free to throw that
we
subscribe.
We give you every possible way to get in touch with us.
Every way. We
through all the media and social media sources, through the office, through the website. So that's what we're here for. We love to do this. Looking forward to seeing Louie and Lola here. I still have to figure out how to get Zeus and Delilah here, but yes. I think Zeus would be chill. He would just lay down and hang out with me, but Delilah is just too inquisitive.
We'll start with one.
She may have to calm down a little bit more before.
Maybe we'll bring her in first when we're not live. Let him
That's
check out the space, get comfortable.
But someone's going to have to sort of keep an eye on her.
Sabrina.
She's really an adorable dog, so she's got to be 150 pounds by now because Zeus is about 120. And she's a big lumbering dog. She runs around a lot. And as I say, when I greet her in the morning, she'd just jump up, put her paws on me. She's as tall as I am tall. And she puts her nose right in my face, to give me a little bit of a nudge or a kiss. When I go to sit down at my kitchen table, I'm doing something or looking for articles or watching TV, having a cup of coffee, she'll put her big, massive head on my foot. And after a while, I have to switch feet because she's got a big, massive head. So we'll do a latest picture of her. We'll do a monthly picture of her to see her growth and progression. But
we got to put her compared to something. We got to put an apple next to her or something.
Yeah.
This is what a normal dog looks like.
Well, Zeus is a big German Shepherd. He's bigger than the American Germans. They're like 85 pounds. He's got to be 120 pounds. So without Delilah, you'd see Zeus and say, wow, that's a big German Shepherd. Big, wide, muscular, big head, big chest. And then Delilah walks over, you're like, wow, he's really not that big anymore. She's not filled out yet, but she's tall. Her back is 8 inches higher. Her legs are longer. Her whole body is super long. When she stretches forward to stretch her back out, she's like that long. It's pretty cool, though. She's a sweetheart. So thank you so much, friends and family and everyone else watching the program today, listening to the program today. Feel free to give us a call, a text, an email. We'd love to hear from you. We're back on again Friday here at 12:30 in the amazing studio that Frankie has created. And have a wonderful day. God bless you all. Bye-bye now.